Fordism, Taylorism, and post-Fordism. Taylorism is a bit of management theory ushered in by Frederick Taylor. Taylorism was based around his ideas of scientific management. Taylor and his associates were the first people to study the work process scientifically. They studied how work was performed, and they looked at how this affected worker productivity. Taylor's philosophy focused on the belief that making people work as hard as they could was not as efficient as optimizing the way the work was done. In 1909, Taylor published The Principles of Scientific Management. In the piece, he proposed that by optimizing and simplifying jobs, productivity would increase. He also advanced the idea that workers and managers needed to cooperate with one another. This was very different from the way work was typically done in businesses beforehand. Factory managers at that time had very little contact with the workers and usually left them on their own to produce the necessary product. There was no standardization, and the workers' main motivation was often continued employment, so there was no incentive to work as quickly or as efficiently as possible. Taylor believed that all workers were motivated by money, so he promoted the idea of a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. In other words, if a worker didn't achieve enough in a day, he didn't deserve to be paid as much as another worker who was highly productive. With a background in mechanical engineering, Taylor was very interested in efficiency. While advancing his career at a U.S. steel manufacturer, he designed workplace experiments to determine optimal performance levels. As such, he found that by calculating the time needed for the various elements of the task, he could develop the best way to complete that task. These time and motion studies also led Taylor to conclude that certain people could work more efficiently than others. These were the people whom managers should seek to hire where possible. Therefore, selecting the right people for the job was another important part of workplace efficiency. Taking what he learned from these workplace experiments, Taylor developed 4 principles of scientific management. These principles are also simply known as Taylorism. The principles of scientific management are 1. Replace working by rule of thumb or simple habit and common sense, and instead use the scientific method to study work and determine the most efficient way to perform specific tasks. 2. Rather than simply assign workers to just any job, match workers to their jobs based on capability and motivation, and train them to work at maximum efficiency. 3. Monitor worker performance and provide instructions and supervision to ensure that they're using the most efficient ways of working. 4. Allocate the work between managers and workers so that the managers spend their time planning and training, allowing the workers to perform their tasks efficiently.
Henry Ford was an American industrialist and founder of the Ford Motor Company. Ford created the Ford Model T car in 1908 and went on to develop the assembly line, which was a mode of production that revolutionized the industry. As a result, Ford sold millions of cars and became a world-famous company head. With the release of the Model T in October of 1908, the company posted 100% gains for several years. However, more than his profits, Ford became renowned for his revolutionary vision, which was the manufacture of an inexpensive automobile made by skilled workers who earned steady wages. In 1914, he sponsored the development of the moving assembly line technique of mass production. Ford wanted people to drive cars and make it cheap to repair. By 1918, half of all cars in America were Model Ts. Fordism first got its meaning in the 1920s, and Fordism came to signify modernization in general. Fordism involves mass production of standardized goods on a moving assembly line using dedicated machinery and semi-skilled labor. With the development of the assembly line, it created structure to the workflow, increase in consumption, and further advances in technology. With the assembly line in place, it removed the groups of skilled workers and replace them with assembly line workers, which required less skill and more of putting parts together produced by machines. Assembly lines created a high-volume, high-speed production that in turn standardized the precision of components.
Post-Fordism is the modern manufacturing process brought about by technological advancements, changing market pressures, and employee dissatisfaction. It also brought on new ways of looking at consumption and production. The saturation of key markets brought on a turn against mass consumption and a pursuit of higher living standards. This shift brought a change in how the market was viewed from a production standpoint. Rather than being viewed as a mass market to be served by mass production, the consumers were looked at as groups pursuing different goals that could be better served with small batches of specialized goods. Mass markets also became less important, while markets for luxury and custom items became more significant. To shift from Fordism to post-Fordism, it came with changes in the economy, politics, and prominent ideologies. In the economic realm, post-Fordism brought the decline of regulation and production by the nation-state and the rise of global markets and corporations. Mass marketing was replaced by flexible specialization, and organizations began to emphasize communication more than command. The workforce changed with an increase in internal marketing, franchising, and subcontracting, and a rise in part-time, temporary, self-employed, and home workers. Politically, the class-based political parties declined and social movements based on region, gender, or race increased. Cultural and ideological changes included the rise in individualist modes of thought and behavior, and a culture of entrepreneurialism. Following the shift in production and acknowledging the need for knowledge-based workers, education became less standardized and more specialized. Although it's not called Taylorism or Fordism, it still carries important elements of both because it brought out workers that need a diverse set of skills along with working on an assembly line.
Taylorism. Pros and cons. Pros. Standardization. With Taylorism, it created an incentive to work because the more you produced at work, the more you should get paid. Motivation. With the standardization of the more you produced, the more you should get paid. It motivated the worker to work harder because if you deserve the pay, you get the pay. Selected workers. Frederick Taylor found that certain people work more efficiently than others, and those are the workers he wanted his managers to hire. Therefore, selecting the right people for the job is important in workplace efficiency. Cons. Division of labor. You create a workplace where some people get paid more for the same amount of work. High volume and high speed. Because you are using people with skilled craft, they will do the job right with the greatest quality in mind, rather than pushing out a product that was just slapped together.
Pros of Fordism. With the development of the assembly line, it created a structured workflow which helped with production. Because of this, it created a high-volume, high-speed production. Since assembly lines were considered easy, repetitive work, it was easy to hire workers and train workers to do the job that was asked. Cons. Because workers use machines that they are not skilled to use, it created a dangerous work environment. Because of a dangerous work environment, it created a high turnover rate.
In conclusion, with Taylorism, the principles of scientific management became widely practiced, and the resulting cooperation between workers and managers eventually developed into the teamwork we enjoy today. While Taylorism, in its purest sense, isn't practiced much nowadays, scientific management did provide many significant contributions to the advancement of managerial practice. It introduced standardized selection and training procedures, a way to study workplace efficiency, and encouraged the idea of systematic organizational design. On the other hand, Fordism, the manufacturing system designed to produce low-cost goods and afford its workers decent enough wages to buy them, became the model of economic expansion and technological progress based on mass production and the manufacture of standardized products in huge volumes using special machinery and unskilled labor. Although Fordism was a method used to improve productivity in the automotive industry, it is still being applied today in the manufacturing process, albeit now with robots.